We'll be starting with the valuation of goods or services for the purpose of charging GST. So, valuation of taxable supplies. And this is a very, very important chapter, valuation of taxable supply, because one practical question is definitely asked from this chapter. And here, as you are aware, GST is what? Ad valorem levy. What is ad valorem levy? That here the tax is levied on the basis of value. The tax is levied on the basis of value. GST basically is the ad valorem levy, where the tax is levied on the basis of value, and you have to determine the value of goods or services will be determined as per the provisions of section 15 of the CGST Act 2017. So you will be determining the value as per the provisions of section 15 of the CGST Act 2017 and rules 27 to rule 35 of the CGST rules 2017 contains the provisions where how you will be determining the value in red with section 15. Then here you are aware of the fact that since GST is the ad valorem levy, you have to pay GST on the basis of value, and basically section 15, which deals with the provisions of valuation, it provides that the value of the taxable supply will be the transaction value. Basically, it is a transaction value. And what is transaction value? Transaction value is the invoice value. Whatever the price which is charged for those goods or services where supplier and recipient are not related and price is the sole consideration. That is basically the value. Here we will be discussing the provisions of section 15 first, then we will be going to the various rules. So here GST basically, as we have discussed, is an ad valorem levy and provisions of section 15 are there. So what we will be discussing is section 15, and section 15 is dealing with what? 15.1, basically it is providing that the value of taxable supply, it will be the transaction value. It will be the transaction value. Then 15.2 is providing for the inclusions in the value of taxable supply. What will be included in the value of the taxable supply that has been provided in section 15.2. 15.3, it is dealing with the provisions relating to exclusion from the value. Then 15.4 is providing that the value will be determined as per the rules. Value to be determined as per rules, which has been framed in this regard. And 15.5, it is dealing with the valuations in case of notified supplies. How you will be valuing the goods or services, specific provisions have been made in this regard. Now, the section 15.1 provides for what? The value of the taxable supply of goods or services. Basically, what will be the value? It is the transaction value. And what is transaction value? Transaction value is a price which is actually paid or payable for the said supply of goods or services. It's a price. What price? Invoice price basically. Supplier and recipient must not be related, and the price must be the sole consideration for supply. As in customs also, we have seen the concept of transaction value, invoice-based value. Similarly, here also, there is a concept of what? The transaction value. Any invoice-based value, it is the same. So here, what they have provided is that the value of supply of goods or service or both, the same shall be what? The transaction value. The value will be the transaction value. And what is the transaction value? That is the price actually paid or payable for the said supply. It is the price which is actually paid or payable for the said supply of goods or service or both, where supplier and the recipient of supply are not related. The supplier and the recipient of supply must not be related. And term related has been defined, has been provided in explanation to section 15. It has been provided in explanation to section 15. It is the price actually paid or payable for the said supply of goods or services or both, where supplier and the recipient of supply, they are not related, and what price is the sole consideration for supply. So fundamentally, basically, supply is between unrelated persons, where price is the sole consideration for supply. Then the value will be what? The transaction value. Whatever the price, whatever the invoice price which has been charged, that is basically the transaction value. Now, here, provisions of section 15, they are applicable for the valuation of both goods as well as services. Separate provisions have not been made for valuation of goods and services, and the provisions of these valuations, they are, as per the provisions of section 20, they are all equally applicable here in for the IGST Act also. These provisions are applicable for IGST Act also. So here, the transaction value basically is applicable between unrelated persons, where price is the sole consideration for supply, and basically it is the price actually paid or payable for the said supply of goods or services. So here, for each specific supply, valuation will be done as per the provisions of section 15, and the word its price actually paid or say payable. The payable refers to the price that is agreed to be paid for the said goods or services. So which it basically refers to what? The agreed price. Now here, as per the provisions of section 15.1, the value will be the transaction value. Now 15.2 is providing for what? The inclusions in the transaction value. Section 15.2, it is providing for what? The inclusions in the transaction value. Now, what is included in the transaction value? So here, the value of supply shall include. The value of supply, it shall include what? The taxes, duties, cess, fees, and charges, which are levied under any law. Basically, which are levied under any law, other than CGST, SGST, UTGST, GST compensation cess. So as per 15.2a, if any taxes, duties, cesses, fees, and charges which are levied under any law for the time being in force, these taxes under any other law, if charged separately by the supplier, is the same as being charged separately by the supplier. For example, say renting of immovable property. Say it is a specified service. Now the rent is say 1 lakh rupees per month, that has been charged by the supplier from the tenant, that is the recipient of service, 12 lakh rupees. Besides this, he has also charged what? the municipal tax which has been levied in respect of such property amounting to say rupees 25,000. So here this municipal tax will be included. So what will be the value of the taxable supply? 12,25,000 rupees will be the value of the taxable supply, where CGST is levied at rate of 9% and say SGST is levied at rate of say 9%. So here the value will include any taxes, duties, cesses, fees and charges which are levied under any other law for the time being in force, other than the CGST Act, SGST Act, UTGST Act, GST compensation cess. So as you are aware, here entertainment tax is levied by local bodies, say on tobacco, both excise duty is levied plus GST is levied. Therefore, this excise duty, the same will be what? Included. Whatever taxes, duties, cesses, fees and charges which are levied under any law for the time being in force, and when the same is charged, important aspect is it must be charged separately by the supplier. In case the same is not charged, separately by the supplier, if the same is not charged separately by the supplier, then it will not be included in the value of taxable supply. Logically, if it has not been charged, then why it will be included? The same will not be what? Included in the value of the taxable supply. So what 15(2)(a) is providing for what? Any taxes, duties, cesses, fees. Now it has been specifically given a circular what? That TCS under income tax law, the same will not be included for valuation purposes. What is included, as I have already told you, central excise duty will be included. In rent contract, if the tenant is required to pay municipal taxes, the same will be included. In case of the power to levy entertainment tax, the same is still leviable with the local, available with the local bodies. And in case the tickets are purchased in the entertainment event, it will also include the entertainment tax amount. However, as per the above provisions, entertainment tax is included in the ticket, the same will form the part of the transaction value. Besides this, it has been provided that the TCS under the Income Tax Act shall not be included. The same shall not be included in determining the taxable value. Same will not be included in the Income Tax Act. Whatever TCS is levied under the Income Tax Act. Say there is a supply of scrap. On scrap, TCS is levied say at rate of 1%. So 10 lakh rupees is the value. Then 10,000 rupees is the tax which is to be collected under Income Tax Act, which has been debited to the buyer. Then 10,10,000 rupees is the total sum. But GST will be levied only on what? Say GST is levied at rate of 5% on scrap. It will be levied on rupees 10 lakh. Same will be levied on rupees what? 10 lakh. Fundamentally, TCS under the Income Tax Act will not be included in the taxable value for the purpose of GST. Then 15(2)(b) is what? Supplier's obligation. Section 15(2)(b), it is providing for what? the supplier's obligation which has been met by the recipient same shall be included in the value of the taxable supply. Same shall be included in the value of the taxable supply. So any amount which the supplier is liable to pay in relation to such supply but has been incurred by the recipient of the supply and which is not included in the price actually paid or payable for the goods or services or both. And the same is not included where in the price actually paid or payable for the goods or services or both will be included in the value of the supply. Example, we can say supply of goods is on FOR basis. That is basically delivery is to be given at customer's premises. Now it is a obligation to pay transport charges. The obligation to pay transport charges is of the supplier here. Say if the same is met by the recipient, if same is met by recipient, it will be included in the value of taxable supply. So here, whatever is the supplier's obligation which is met by the recipient, it will be included where? In the value of the taxable supply. So if an agent has been appointed, say XYZ Limited has appointed Mr. say X as selling agent. Now X finds the buyer, say ABC Limited. Now XYZ Limited supplies goods to ABC Limited at a price of 10,000 rupees. Now buyer AB, it is basically the XYZ's obligation to pay commission to Mr. X because it is his agent, but buyer has paid say 150 rupees commission to the agent. It's basically supplier's obligation which has been met by the recipient, and it will be included where? In the value of the taxable supply. The supply value of taxable supply in such a case will be 10,150. However, if payment is made by the supplier, say payment is made by recipient on his own account, that is where the recipient is not under legal obligation, where the recipient is not under the legal obligation to incur such expense on behalf of supplier. If the recipient is not under any legal obligation to incur such expense on behalf of supplier, he has incurred the same on his own account, it will not be included in the value of taxable supply. In such a case, the same will not be included in the value of the taxable supply. Then 15 to C, whatever incidental expenses, the incidental expenses and any amount charged for anything done by the supplier any amount charged for anything done by the supplier in respect of supply before or at the time of delivery of goods or services. Before or at the time of delivery of the goods or services. Before or at the time of, say, delivery of goods or services. The same shall form the part of the value of taxable supply. Same shall form part of the value of taxable supply. So this is very important, you must remember this. Here the incidental expenses, whatever incidental expenses have been incurred, including, say, commission and packing, charged by the supplier to the recipient of supply. So, say, commission, which is separately charged. Packing, whether it's a primary packing, whether it is a secondary packing, whether it's a special secondary packing, packing at the instance of customer, everything will be included. Then there may be, say, weighment charges. There may be dharmada charges. There may be inspection charges and certification charges. There may be installation and testing charges. These installation and testing charges. So there can be so many charges which are what? Charged. There can be what? Outward freight. There can be transit insurance. So these charges are charged. So here the incidental expenses, including commission and packing, which is charged by the supplier, the same is charged by the supplier to the recipient of supply. It will be included. And any amount charged for anything done by the supplier. Any amount charged for anything done by the supplier in respect of supply of goods or services or both. In respect of supply of goods or services or both. At a time of or before delivery of goods or supply of services. At the time of or before delivery of goods or the time of, say, supply of the services. The same will be included in the value of taxable supply. So here commission, this may be paid to agent and recovered from the buyer of the goods or services. This will be included in the value of the supply. Packing, if charged by the supplier to the recipient. Similarly, it will form the part of the value of supply. It may be primary packing. It may be secondary packing. It may be packing at instance of customer. So packing, if charged by the supplier to the recipient, will be included where? In the value. Similarly, inspection and certification charges are any other element that may be added to the value if billed to the recipient of supply. Installation and testing charges at recipient side will also be added, being the amount which is charged for anything which has been done by the supplier in respect of supply at the time of making such supply. So the same will be what? included. That has been provided in section 15 to C. Similarly, outward freight and transit insurance, basically where the supplier agrees to deliver the goods at the buyer's premises and arranges for transportation. That is FOR contract of supply becomes a composite supply where the principal supply is supply of goods. So basically here transportation is not a separate supply. Principal supply is supply of goods and transportation becomes incidental. Therefore outward freight, it will become the part of composite supply and GST will be payable at the same rate which is applicable for the relevant goods. However, if contract for supply is on ex factory basis where buyer pays the outward freight, contract is on say ex factory basis where buyer pays the outward freight, the same will not be included in the value of the supply. So here one is FOR contract. Here value is say 10 lakh rupees. Freight charges is 1,50,000 rupees. So here value of the goods will be 11,50,000 rupees and GST will be charged at rate applicable to goods. That is say 12% is the GST. Though freight charges are charged at rate of 5% because it's a composite supply where kya? The principal supply is what? Supply of goods. In case where it is a CIF contract, sorry, ex factory contract, it is ex works contract or ex factory contract. Here the goods are delivered. Goods are to be delivered to the recipient. Where? At the factory gate of the supplier. At factory gate of supplier. The goods are to be delivered to the recipient at the factory gate of the supplier. Hence, the cost of transport here shall not form the part of the assessable value or the transaction value. So 15 to C, basically it is dealing with what or whatever incidental expenses including commission and packing and any amount charged for anything done by the supplier before the supply of goods or services or before or at the time of delivery of such goods or supply of services, the same will form the part of the assessable value on which GST will be levied. Then here 15 to D, basically it is what? Charges for delayed payment of the consideration. 15 to D, it is dealing with what? Charges for delayed payment of the consideration. So here, whatever charges are there for delayed payment of consideration, that is interest, late fees or penalty for delayed payment of the consideration, the same is for delayed payment of consideration, will be included in the value of the taxable supply. The same will be included where in the value of the taxable supply. So interest or late fees or penalty for delayed payment of consideration. So we have say an agreement We have an agreement with the recipient. What is the agreement? If payment is not made within 30 days, if the payment is not made within 30 days, interest will be charged at rate of 1% per month. And there is a delay for 2 months. This is 10 lakh rupees. Now here, interest is charged on this 10 lakh rupees at rate of 2% for 2 months. That is what? 20,000 rupees. So this 20,000 rupees will be what? Included in the value of the supply. So here, interest, late fees or penalty for delayed payment of any consideration for any supply, the same will be included in what? The value of supply. So whatever charges are there for delayed payment of the consideration, it will be included in the value of the supply. Then subsidies. Subsidies. So wherever subsidies are received, which is directly linked to the price, excluding subsidies which are what? Provided by the central government and state government. Subsidies provided by the central government and state government. So subsidies which are directly linked to the price. Subsidies which are directly linked to the price, excluding subsidies which are provided by the central government or the state government. So say if any subsidy is received from a third person for timely supply of goods, if subsidy has been received from a third person, say, for timely supply of goods, तो क्या हो जाएगा? Same will be included in the value of the, say, taxable supply. And basically the supplier, it is included in the value of supply. It is included in the value of supply of the supplier who receives such subsidy. Who receives such subsidy. So what it has been provided in 15(2)(e) is what? Subsidies which are directly linked to the price. Subsidies which are directly linked to the price, excluding the subsidies which have been provided by the central government and state government. So in case if any subsidy is provided by the central government and state government, the same will not be included in the value of the supply. Similarly, the amount of subsidy, it has been explained that the amount of subsidy shall be included in the value of the supply of the supplier who receives such subsidy. So it is included in the value of the supply of the supplier who what? Receives such subsidy. So 15, subsection 2 of section 15 deals with what? The inclusions. What are to be included? Any tax, duty, cess, fees or any other sum which is chargeable under any other law. Excluding kya? The CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST or GST compulsion cess. Then TCS is not to be included that under Income Tax Act. The same will not be included in the value of the taxable supply. Then comes what? 15(2)(b), that is supplier's obligation which has been met by the recipient will be included in the value of the supply. So as per the agreement, it was the obligation of the supplier, but the same has been met by the recipient. Then 15(2)(c), it is dealing with what? Incidental expenses such as commission, packing, etc., and any other amount which has been charged by the supplier for making supply of goods or making delivery of goods, anything which has been charged for the same or providing the services, it will be included in the what? Value of the supply. Then 15(2)(d) is what? The charges for delayed payment of the consideration such as interest, late fees, penalty. The same will be included in the value of the supply. 15(2)(e) is what? Subsidies. Basically, they must be directly linked to the price and they must not be received from the central government or state government. And subsidy will be included in the value of the supply of the supplier, basically, who receives such a subsidy. Here we have discussed about what the inclusions. Then 15(3). It is dealing with the exclusions. It is dealing with what? Exclusions from the value of taxable supply. Exclusions from the value of the taxable supply. It may be what? First is what? Discounts. One discount may be given. It is post-supply discount, after supply. Or say discounts given at the time of supply. At a time of supply. Or before supply. Here these are deductible. These are what? Deductible. They must be shown separately in the invoice. So the any discount, basically 15(3)(a) it is, any discount which is given before or at the time of supply. That is, which is given before or at the time of supply. If such discount has been duly recorded in the invoice, important aspect is the discount must be duly recorded in invoice issued in respect of such supply. Yani, say price is 25 lakh rupees, less discount it has been shown, say at rate of 5%. So this is shown separately in the invoice. Discount at rate of 5%, that is 1,25,000 rupees. The same will be deductible, and on 23,75,000 rupees. 23,75,000 rupees. GST will be levied. So first is any discount which is given before or at a time of supply. If such discount has been duly recorded in the invoice issued in respect of such supply, then is post-supply discount. Post-supply discount. So here there must be agreement to provide such discount must have been entered before or at the time of supply. Agreement to provide such discount must have been entered before or at the time of supply. They must be specifically linked to invoices. It must be specifically linked to invoice. And attributable input tax credit has been what? Reversed by the recipient. So that discount will be deductible. But in case the agreement has not been entered prior to such supply or at the time of supply, in that particular circumstance, you will not be getting the benefit. So any discount which is given after the supply has been effected, any discount which is given after the supply has been effected, if such discount is established in the terms of agreement which has been entered into at or before the time of supply and specifically linked to the relevant invoices. Input tax credit as is attributable to discount on basis of documents which have been issued by the supplier, that is credit note will be issued by supplier. And ITC has to be reversed by the recipient. Say first of all, if value has been charged 10 lakh rupees and then GST has been levied at rate of 18% and subsequently 2 lakh rupees discount has been offered, then on this, on 2 lakh rupees, 18% is works out to be 36,000 rupees. The recipient will be required to reverse the credit. So for example, they have given the agreement of the GL electrical appliances with its dealers is that the sale of washing machine price over 500 pieces in Diwali month, if they sell 500 pieces in Diwali month, will entitle them discount of 5% per machine sold in the next month. So say if Diwali is in October, if they sell 500 pieces in this Diwali month, then whatever sales will take place in November, they will be what? Offering a 5% discount. Now the dispatch of November has already taken in October. Dispatch has taken from the factory of the supplier in October. And the data of this October, the Diwali month will come when the October month is over. So here, in this particular circumstance, supply has already been effected. Agreement has been entered. Now, when we get the data, yes, 500 pieces have been sold, then we'll be offering a discount for the supplies which has already been effected for the month of November. So here, in that case, it's a post-supply discount. We'll be getting the benefit of the deduction. However, the recipient will be entitled to reverse the input tax credit. So here, the next month stock has already been dispatched when the sale figures of Diwali month are worked out. The next month stock has already been dispatched when the sale figures of Diwali month are worked out. However, as the agreement was in existence at the time of supply and the discount can be worked out for each invoice, the taxable value billed will be billed price minus 5%. The dealer must reverse the proportionate ITC on relevant stock to bring it in line with the reduced tax. So here, however, say if discounts are not known, discounts are not known at the time of supply, at a time or before supply. If discounts are not known at a time or before supply, same shall not be deductible. The same shall not be what? Deductible. So year-end discount. If you are, they are not known at a time of supply, then in that particular circumstance, they won't be deductible. So this was about 15.3a and 15.3b, what discounts which are given at the time of supply or before supply. They must be shown separately in the invoice. Whether they are shown separately in the invoice, well, yes, discount will not be included in the value of supply. If they are not shown separately in the invoice, discounts will be included in the value of supply. Post-supply discount, the same has been given in terms of the agreement which existed at the time of supply. The same must be specifically linked to the invoices. Proportionate ITC has been reversed by the recipient. Bolo, yes, all the conditions have been satisfied. Then such discount will not be included in the value of supply. However, if agreement doesn't exist, they cannot be specifically linked to the invoices, recipient has not reversed the ITC, then the discounts, the same will be included where? In the value of the supply. Then, as per the provisions relating to what? Section 15.4, what they provide is the value will be determined in accordance with the rules which have been made in this regard. Where the value of supply of goods or services or both cannot be determined under 15.1. Say price is not sole consideration for supply of, say, supplies to a related person. In such a case, supplies to, say, a related person. In such a case, value will be determined as per rules. Value, the same will be determined as per the rules. And besides this, what has been provided in section 15.5 also. Section 15.5 provides that value of notified supplies, say air travel agent, lottery betting gambling, money changing service, say life insurance, supply of second-hand goods, so they will be in accordance with the rules. So likewise, the valuation in such a case will be in accordance with the rules. So what we have seen is when we have to go to the rules, whether the supply is a sole consideration for supply, well, no, then we have to go to the rules. Whether when the price is the sole consideration for supply, when the price basically is the sole consideration for supply, bola no, we have to go to the rules. Where bola price is the sole consideration for supply. Whether supplier and recipient are related, bola yes, supplier and recipient are what? Related. Then also we have to go to the rules. Bola no, they are not related. Then whether the supply is notified under section 15.5, bola yes, supply is notified under section 15.5. Then we have to go to the rules. Bola no, the supply is also neither notified under 15.5, price is a sole consideration, and supplier and recipient are not related. Then the assessable value will be the transaction value, which will include certain elements as specified under 15.2 and exclude certain elements as specified in section 15.3. So this was what about the valuations which we were discussing, statutory provisions. Now one circular has been issued, that is circular number 47/21/2018. Now what it has been provided in the circular is, they say the principal manufacturer is there. And he gets components, so he gets components and parts manufactured by whom? The component manufacturer. Now component manufacturer will be manufacturing those components and parts and then supplying the same to the principal manufacturer. Here it has been named as the original equipment manufacturer. Now here this component manufacturer is supplying this to whom? The original equipment manufacturer. Now say the original equipment manufacturer provides molds and dies free of cost. Now here, in case if the mold and dies have been provided free of cost, basically it is if supplier's obligation has been met by recipient, if it is a supplier's obligation which has been met by the recipient, then only as per 15(2)(b it will be included, otherwise not. Now if the component manufacturer was required to use his own molds and dies, and then he has asked the principal original equipment manufacturer to supply those molds and dies to him, then it will be included in the value. Otherwise, if he has received those molds and dies free of cost, and here he was not under obligation, in that particular, is the original equipment manufacturer was not under obligation to supply the same, then it won't be included. So issue is relating to what? The valuation of supply made by a component manufacturer. Valuation of supply made by a component manufacturer using molds and dies owned by the original equipment manufacturers, which are sent free of cost by him, whether the same will be included in the value or not. So here it has been clarified by the CBIC that while calculating the value of the supply which is made by the component manufacturer, using molds and dies owned by the original equipment manufacturer. They are using what? Molds and dies which are owned by original equipment manufacturer, which are sent free of cost. The value of molds and dies shall not be added to the value of supply made by him, because cost of molds and dies was not incurred by the component manufacturer. So that value will not be included because the cost of molds and dies was not incurred by the component manufacturer, and thus it does not merit any consideration to include the same as per the terms of 15(2)(b). However, if contract between OEM and component manufacturer was for supply of components made by using what? Mold and dies belonging to component manufacturer. Now, if then original equipment manufacturer supplies them to the component manufacturer, then what will happen? Then in that case, it is a supplier's obligation which has been met by the recipient and will be included. But the same have been supplied by whom? Original equipment manufacturer to component manufacturer on FOC basis. The amortized cost of such molds and dies shall be added to the value of the components. So clear it is. If original equipment manufacturer was under no obligation to supply those molds and dies, still he has supplied the same free of cost to the component manufacturer, it will not be included in the value of the supply. However, say it was a components manufacturer's obligation to use his own molds and dies to manufacture that component, and then the original equipment manufacturer has supplied those molds and dies free of cost. In such a case, the same will be included in what? The value of the supply. Now, next clarification is regarding the applicability of GST on, say, additional interest or say penal interest. In case there is a default in payment of equated monthly installment. So here say supplier has supplied any goods to recipient and has allowed EMI for the same, and there is a delay in making the payment and additional or penal interest is charged. In that case, it will be covered under 15(2)(d), and here, because the principal supply is supply of goods, therefore that additional and penal interest will be included. But in case if recipient has obtained any loan from any other person, then in that particular circumstance, he is paying interest. So interest basically does not include, will not form the part of the value of the taxable supply, because it has been exempt under entry 27 of notification number 12/2017. Therefore, the penal interest will also not be chargeable to GST. So what has happened in this particular circular is, first of all, we'll be reading the same. What is the equated monthly installment? An equated monthly installment is a fixed amount which is paid by a borrower to a lender at specified date for every calendar month. So EMI is a fixed amount paid by borrower to lender at a specified date every calendar month. EMIs are used to pay off both interest and principal every month. EMI basically, they are used to pay both interest and principal every month, so that over a specified period. What EMI consists of? As you are aware, it consists of principal as well as kya? The interest. So that over a specified period, the loan is fully paid off along with the interest. So loan is basically fully paid off along with the interest. In cases where EMI is not paid at a scheduled time, if you do not pay EMI as per the scheduled time, there is a levy of additional or penal interest. There is basically levy of what? Additional or penal interest on account of delay in payment of EMI. So there is a levy of additional or penal interest on account of delay in payment of EMI. Now what is the issue under consideration? The issue under consideration is whether GST on additional or penal interest on the overdue loan would be exempt from GST in terms of serial number, notification serial number 27 of notification number 12/2017, dated 28/6/2017, or such penal interest would be treated as a consideration for liquidated damages, or whether the same would be treated as a consideration for liquidated damages amounting to a separate taxable supply of service under GST covered under entry 5E of schedule 2 of the CGST Act, agreeing to the obligation to refrain from an act or to tolerate an act. The issue is whether the GST will be levied on such additional or penal interest, or the same will be exempt by virtue of entry 27 of serial number of entry number 27 of notification number 12/2017, which we have discussed in the exemption chapter. Now clarifications has been issued. Now as per the provisions of section 15(2)(d), as we have seen, the value of supply includes interest or late fees or penalty for delayed payment of consideration for any supply. Entry 27 of exemption notification exempt services by way of extending deposits, loans or advances insofar as the consideration is represented by way of interest or discount other than interest involved in credit card services. Here, interest means interest payable in any manner in respect of monies borrowed or debt incurred, including deposit, claim or other similar right or obligation, but does not include any service fees or other charge in respect of monies borrowed or debt incurred, or in respect of credit facilities which have not been utilized. That has been given in serial number 27. Now, there are two transactions basically involving options involving EMI prevalent in trade. In view of the provisions of law, there are two options along with the applicability of GST on them have been explained in these illustrations. Number one is, say, nature of transaction case 1. X sells a mobile phone to Y. The cost of mobile phone is rupees 40,000. Cost of mobile phone basically is 40,000 rupees. However, X gives Y. Now here X has given Y an option to pay equated monthly installments of say 11,000 each for a period of 4 months. That is 44,000 rupees. Further, as per the contract, if there is any delay in payment by Y beyond the scheduled date, Y would be liable to pay additional interest. Additional interest is 500 per month. Now, in some instances, X is charging 40,000 for the mobile and is separately issuing another invoice for providing services, extending loans to Y. Consideration for interest is 2.5% per month, and an additional and penal interest 500 per month for each delay in payment. So here, basically, as per 15(2)(d) of the CGST Act, the amount of penal interest here, since the supplies of mobile phone will be included in the value of supply. The transaction between X and Y is supply of taxable goods, that is what mobile phone. Accordingly, penal interest would be taxable as it would be included in the value of mobile phone irrespective of the manner of invoicing. So they say that the same will be included here because the transaction between the supplier and recipient is supply of mobile phone. Therefore, this will be what? Included in the value of the supply. Then the second transaction is a different transaction. X sells a mobile phone to Y. The cost of mobile phone is 40,000 rupees. Y has an option to avail interest at rate of 2.5% per month for purchasing the mobile phone from Measures ABC Limited. Now X has sold mobile phone to Y. This is supply of goods. ABC Limited has provided loan to Y. This is separate supply. This is what? A separate supply. The terms of loan of Measures ABC Limited allows Y a period of 4 months to repay the loan and additional or penal interest of 1.25% per month for delay in payment. So here additional and penal interest is charged for a transaction between Y and ABC Limited, and basically the same is covered in serial number 20. This is covered under, say, interest serial number 27 of notification number 12/2017. Accordingly, in this case, the penal interest which is charged thereon on transactions between Y and Measures ABC Limited would not be subject to GST, as the same would be covered under notification number 12/2017. And the value of supply of mobile phone in such a case would be rupees 40,000 for the purpose of levy of GST. The value of supply will be basically 40,000 for the purpose of levy of what? GST. Because a separate transaction, financial service here becomes a separate transaction because same has been provided by whom? ABC Limited to Mr. Y. Then it is further clarified that the transaction for levy of additional or penal interest, they do not fall under entry 5E of Schedule 2 of the CGST Act, that is agreeing to the obligation to refrain from an act or to tolerate an act or to do a situation or to do an act. As this levy of additional or penal interest satisfies the definition of interest as contained in notification number 12/2017 CT rate. So here additional and penal interest, they satisfy what? Basically the definition of interest. Therefore, it cannot be regarded as agreeing to the obligation to refrain from an act or to tolerate an act. It is further clarified that any service charge or fees or other charges which are levied by ABC Limited in respect of transactions which have been extending deposits, loans and advances, the same would not qualify as interest and the same would not be exempt from GST. So this was the statutory provisions we have discussed along with the circulars. Now we'll be going to the rules. Rule 35 and Rule 34 will be discussed by us first, and then we'll be going to what? The practical questions. Then we will go to the basic statutory other rules. So in case of conversion of foreign currency into Indian currency, here exchange rate as notified by CBIC, exchange rate as notified by CBIC will be taken when supply of goods is involved at the time of supply. when supply of goods is involved at a time of supply, the rate of exchange for determination of value of taxable goods shall be applicable rate of exchange as notified by CBIC, and the same will be taken under section 14 of the Customs Act for the date of time of supply of such goods in terms of section 12 of the Act. For the date of time of supply of goods in terms of section 12 of the Act. So fundamentally, exchange rate as notified by CBIC will be taken. And in case of services, exchange rate as notified by generally accepted accounting practices, as not notified, as used, as determined by generally accepted accounting practices. Whatever accounting rate we apply at the time, at the date of supply, at the date of time of supply, will be taken. So the rate of exchange for determination of value of taxable services, the rate of exchange for determination of value of taxable services shall be applicable rate of exchange determined as per the generally accepted accounting principles for the date of time of supply of such services in terms of section 13 of the Act. Exchange rate as has been notified by CBIC will be taken in respect of goods. In respect of services, we have to take as per the generally accepted accounting practices. Then what is the value of supply if inclusive of GST? How you will be calculating tax amount? It's very simple. Value of supply inclusive of GST into rate of tax upon 100 plus rate of tax. Say if value has been provided inclusive of tax has been given, ₹11,80,000. So ये 11,80,000 into 18 upon 118. If rate of GST is what? 18%. Then tax element will be ₹1,80,000 and the value will be 10 lakh rupees. So these are the basic rules which will be required by us for calculating the practical problems which we'll be discussing now, and then we'll be shifting to what the other rules.